colleagues when our Islamabad office was the target of a suicide bomb attack the previous year. While I hadn't known any of the victims personally, when it happened, I was assigned the grim task of writing the press statement from headquarters, which made it feel more real than it would have otherwise felt. 2 degrees of separation from death, or maybe even 1 degree? The idea that this could happen to people who shared the same email server on which I fired out hundreds of emails across the world from my BlackBerry daily had a disquieting effect, even though I was safely lodged in Rome at the time. We'd since moved to a squeaky new building in the diplomatic enclave, where austere-looking security guards sporting spiky facial hair routinely waved metal detectors under our vehicles. We used our fingerprints to enter the building after proceeding through airport-like security and pat-downs, but there was still the underlying sense that danger was lurking, even in a city as subdued as Islamabad. Fortunately, the basement bar of the Marriott Hotel helped take the edge off. It was one of the spots where non-Muslims could legally drink without a special license. A jumble of aid workers convened there on buttery August evenings for alcoholic beverages alongside the hotel's usual suspects, mostly foreign businessmen. The liquor was numbing and helped burn down frustration, apprehension, and any general malaise. We all drank way too much, generally, in this line of work. I definitely did, though I'm not sure why. Fear? Habit? Thirst? On the nights I abstained from Johnny Walker Black, however, I was back in my room, in a nondescript guest house which I'd been placed in for security reasons. I could never really remember where it was located because every day the van that picked me up would take a different route to the office just to be safe, and would also come to take me and my colleagues home at different hours, so that our schedule was not predictable to whoever might have unfriendly intentions towards unsuspecting foreigners. While I appreciated the extra caution, it was all pretty disorienting, and the only thing that grounded me was Skyping with my parents at night to let them know that I was safe, even though I couldn't be sure that I was. With the shutter of each vehicle outside my guest house, the whole place quivered, its foundation seemingly as weak as a stack of graham crackers. This would invariably cause several geckos to dart across the cracked ceiling, where a dust-coated fan cranked in lethargic circles, drowning out Christiane Amanpour's voice in the background. Tashi? I'm here, Mom. I knew what she'd say next. It was just a matter of time before she mentioned his name, but it always came up. I just don't know why you can't meet a nice guy like Federer, she sighed. And there it was. Through no fault of her own, my mother, Pramila, lives in an imaginary world where handsome celebrity tennis stars are easy to come by, or in a Nora Ephron movie where good-looking people bump into each other at the tops of skyscrapers, or in bars when they're least expecting it. That had actually been her reality. She never searched or dolled up for hundreds of awkward dates with virtual strangers. Instead, she chanced upon a fine-looking Yankee in a now-shuttered D.C. lounge called The Cave on Valentine's Day, of all days, when she was only 24, a freshly minted immigrant to the U.S. My parents fell madly in love and became one of the first generations to intermarry, in spite of the fact that they lived at a time where diners in places as close by as Virginia refused to serve my mother because of her skin color. Their love story was, in a word, storybook. My path, however, had been more of a zigzag. Not one big story, but rather hundreds of nonsensical romantic threads that led nowhere except to greater self-reliance, which of course is nothing to sniff at. In any case, the likelihood of me encountering a Swiss tennis star, or anyone remotely like that, where I was headed the next morning, a former Taliban stronghold, the very place where Malala was shot in the head by a gunman 2 years later, was kind of slim. The charismatic menthol cigarette-wielding woman who birthed me in the latter part of this 20th century only wanted to see me settled and happy, preferably to a kind, sporty multimillionaire who never seemed to tire of procreating. I get it, as antiquated as it is. Parents of that era, especially the immigrant ones, still want their daughters espoused for protection, security, and companionship. Yet her obsession with Roger Federer had created tension between us as she compared every potential love interest I had to him. Put simply, nobody made the cut with the bar so high. Clearly the stars align on the romance front for some. Others have to slog their way through a bunch of misfits and hope that the person who makes sense, who feels right, will eventually emerge. Something that has become, ironically, notoriously difficult with the advent of dating apps and the proliferation of choice. Like any other woman who grew up on a gargantuan, non-paleo diet of rom-coms, which included both Hollywood and Bollywood.